Hello and welcome to a new episode of Easy English. Coronavirus reached the UK around the end of January this year, and with talks of an impending second wave and increasing restrictions, we're back in Brighton on a particularly windy day at the beach to hear people's stories of living amidst a global pandemic. We're wondering how their lives have changed and if they have any advice for people who are struggling to adapt during this unpredictable and socially distant time. Let's go.
Well, I suppose I don't know how everyone else has dealt with it, but certainly it was a bit odd to begin with. I've come from working in the NHS. I used to work at the hospital, just the Royal Sussex Hospital, and now I work up at St George's University in London. And so there was lots of murmurings ahead of it, really kind of hitting back, really in here, that life was probably going to change. And I remember hearing from a respiratory doctor that we'd probably have to write off this year. So there was some sort of forewarning.
To be fair, I think I did quite well. I'm quite a creative person, so before, like the lockdown, I was working a lot and studying, and I think with the lockdown was kind of that time to sit down and kind of review your priorities. And it was at the beginning, it was a good thing to just be able to sit and relax. And in terms of managing, as I said, I'm quite creative, so I was just doing things around the house, and I think everyone made banana bread at some point. So,
well, for me, I work for the NHS, so I work in the engineering side of the hospital at Haywards Heath. Yeah. So I've really been just going to work every day, and it hasn't really changed that much for me, because it's other than the fact of being in a hospital and having to be aware, although we are away from everywhere there's any patients or anything, I am personally, so I'm nowhere near any of that. Yeah. But for me, generally, there is the constant being aware, having to wash your hands, trying to keep your distance from people, and these sorts of things. It is a bit scary as well, because there's that fear element too.
I feel coronavirus has changed me in the fact that we just realised you've got to appreciate what's around you more. You've got to be more creative with the things we've done.
Slowed you down, just take time in stuff you do and just think about stuff more other than rushing around, trying to get things done. Just slow it down, see friends, see family, so obviously a social distance and all the rest of it.
Not at all. I am a sound engineer. I have my own studio in my own house, so I work at home anyway. So from that point of view, nothing has changed for me.
With going up and down to London every day, as much as I enjoy going to work, actually being able to sort of get out midday, go for a walk in the sunshine was really nice difference in being able to go out, see the downs, the kind of local countryside was a really nice change of pace.
I was all right, and in terms of mental health, I think was probably better than ever. I live with my partner, and I don't think we fought a single time, so it was actually quite good, and I got to do a little bit of my art, paint and research, and take care of garden, small things, but I think it was kind of a big achievement. I also was on my last year of university, so trying to do my assessments through Zoom, that was quite interesting, and try to work remotely when I'm a costume maker, so try to work with a group of people that probably not on the same mental state I am. It was quite difficult, I would say.
We have a campervan as well.
Oh yeah?
It's a small one, which we are adapting, changing.
You bought this before?
Yeah.
Years ago, about 3 years ago. So we haven't really, we suddenly decided just to start changing it, didn't we?
Yeah.
So.
Well, we are more at home. Yeah, that's true. I'm working from home constantly now, since 6 months.
We've been doing a lot more walks and things actually, so enjoying the weather now and just appreciating what's around us. We've also got really creative, so over lockdown we created a pub in our house, so each room was a different bar in Brighton.
And a pub crawl in the house.
A pub crawl in the house. We had a beer garden and we ended up having upstairs was the club, and it generally felt like the club.
Yeah, we had live music, so Sophie's mum does singing, so she had a microphone and a big speaker, so we were outside doing live karaoke and stuff like that, so we just did well.
Yeah.
I don't let anything affect me. So it affected me in a way that I wasn't expecting for some things. For example, I never drive. I have a car, but I never drive. I use public transportation. I live in London. But because I don't like wearing masks, I'm not using public transportation anymore. I'm using more my car. That's the only thing that has changed for me.
I've not been to London since the whole thing started, but I always imagine, like, with the big sort of metropolises, it's almost a different story compared to somewhere like here where there's, everyone can keep a distance.
Yeah, certainly. I found the first couple of times I went back up to London, I think the first time I went to London just before lockdown had hit proper, but people were already kind of, they could see what was on the cards. And it was incredibly quiet. It was really surprising. I walked... when I normally take the train, I take the tube for a bit, but I took a different route, so I was always above ground and had a bit of a walk. And I walked past some schools that I knew were always quite busy, and High Street that's normally bustling. And it was really, really bizarre to see just how quiet it was and how few cars there were on the road. But then going back a few months after, once kind of lockdown had stopped, being really surprised at how busy it was. And how those cafes and those places were back open, and there were so many people in them, and not seemingly able to keep much of a distance. So it was a bit of a surprise to go from a more quiet, less densely populated area and people really kind of keeping their distance to suddenly seeing people on top of each other again. It was a bit of I didn't like it. It made me quite uncomfortable to see.
It's been a roller coaster. Some days like, oh my God, I finished my degree, I'm in debt for the rest of my life, and my professional is down the drain because the theatres are going to bankrupt and the film industry might not pick it up, at least in England. But I don't know, I think because I am a mature student, I had jobs before and I know I can do whatever it takes to survive. And I think that free time as well, it kind of maybe made me realize that before it's like, oh my God, my career is above everything and everyone. The relationship, family, whatever, career first. And soon my career was taken away. I was left with family and relationship. So I kind of have to maybe reset that and think on my priorities. And I know it might sound that I'm really positive, but I take up because I'm quite negative. Like, yeah, my career is fucked. Move on. I'm completely. It's nothing that I can do apart from wait for that to pass and then eventually get back into it. And I don't know. You just have to, I guess, keep positive because otherwise you just go down the drain. And unfortunately,
my company was quite good in helping us to adjust. So we got an extra bonus, which was okay. Wasn't covering everything, but it's just a goodwill gesture. And we had twice a week yoga sessions online, meditation, and we started with daily scrums in the morning.
Daily what, sorry?
Scrums, kind of just to get together and
I see.
Talk how we feel, what workload we have, where we have blockage, where we need help, and I miss going to the office, kind of being at home constantly. Luckily, we moved just before lockdown, so in January.
Yes, we moved
So
house,
before we were in a flat, now we have a house with a garden, which is quite lucky.
For people that have kind of maybe struggled with this, because regardless of whether you believe it,
Sure, you still have to stay within the guidelines. I understand that totally.
So for someone who's maybe had for someone who maybe had a tough time in the first wave, what kind of advice would you give to them for the
second wave? I would personally say don't watch too much media, don't put too much news, don't let somebody get into your head so much, and you start thinking logically how you feel and you feel about the situation, and go with your gut and go with your own thoughts and your own opinions on things. Sometimes not always being told or being shown what to do next, and then that's how I believe you'll stay strong and you'll stay true to yourself and you'll do what's right for yourself.
I'd say stay in contact with people. We're so lucky with FaceTime, you know, all the technology we've got. We're so able to keep in contact with people. It's so important.
And I think definitely take, say, if we got that exercise, I think we had half an hour, did we, a day of exercise that we could do? I'd say definitely take that opportunity.
Even if it's just a
out.
walk.
Even if it's just a walk, being stuck inside can send you crazy, can't it? So, especially if you don't have a garden that you can get out, or you definitely take your opportunity on your exercise for the hour of the day.
And be creative, really. Make the most of the situation you've got. There's so much you can do in your house.
Adapt things.
Yeah.
Yeah, just think about it.
Go online, find some ideas to do and do it.
My advice is don't let it affect you too much, and especially don't live in fear, because that's a terrible thing. And a lot of people are controlled by fear. They let fear control them throughout their lives. Don't let this thing do that, not at all. And I realized that for some people it will be difficult, economically speaking. I work with musicians, and this is not the best time for them. And of course, I've lost some of my clients myself because they don't have the funds to come to me anymore because they cannot work. But I think that if you live in fear, you lose more than just your money.
I got furloughed, so I had a lot more time on my hands, which again I think to begin with was a bit of a struggle, but I think you just got to find routine in whatever you can. So as much as life changes, and it invariably will, I think you've got to find some routine and some reason to get up and get out of bed in the morning, go for a nice walk maybe, you know, talk to some friends you haven't spoken to, and just take advantage of whatever new opportunities life gives you, even if it's taking some away and making things a bit more restrictive in some ways. You've got to enjoy the things you can do, like coming out for a walk at the beach, which I know as soon as we first could get out and about again, that was a huge thing, just being able to kind of potter about and go to places that are on your doorstep and maybe you've spoken about going to before for years, but then you think, well, actually we might as well do it now because we haven't been able to do anything for months at a time.